Hello, my name is Mackenzie Joseph, and welcome to The Scoop. Today, I will be analyzing the book The Great Gatsby from the 1920s and celebrities of the real world.
I don't care if the world knows what my secrets are. Secrets are.
Human beings in a mob. What's a mob to a king? What's a king to a...
First up on the hot seat is Gatsby and Daisy. Gatsby gets money in the book for Daisy in order for Daisy to like him. And so a quote that I found was on chapter 5, and it says, "In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone," he told me, "just remember that all people in this world haven't had the advantages that you have had." That is perfect information. And then, to tie it off to the real world, in 2010, Lamar Odom gave his former wife, because they got divorced, Khloe Kardashian, a $400,000 Rolls Royce after he won the championship with the LA Lakers. I mean, that's a fantastic gift in itself, but there's something going on there, you know.
A little party never killed nobody, so we gon' dance until we drop. A little party never killed nobody.
Some little illegal action for the next part, when Gatsby got his money for Daisy from bootlegging, which bootlegging is illegal forms of selling alcohol. Back in the 1920s, there was a law against it. And so I found this on page 133 through 134, and it goes like this. "I found out what your drugstores were. He and this Wolfsheim bought up a lot of side street drugstores here and in Chicago and sold grain alcohol over the counter. That's one of his little stunts. I picked him for a bootlegger the first time I saw him, and I wasn't far wrong. That drugstore business was just small change. But you've got something on now, what that Walter's afraid to tell me about." And so that was Tom accusing Gatsby for, but Tom was correct. And so, to tie it into the real world, Teresa Greenance and her husband Joe from The Real Housewives of New Jersey were found guilty for mail, wire, and bankruptcy fraud. She's serving 15 months in jail as of January 5th, 2015. So you obviously can tell that there is a relationship with this.
Will you still love me when I'm no longer young?
Relationships are going up in tangles in this next section. When Tom and Daisy aren't doing well in their relationship, Daisy turns to Gatsby, and I found this on page 96 in the book, and she quotes, "They had forgotten me." But Daisy glanced up and held out her hand. Gatsby didn't know me now at all. I looked once more at them, and that they looked back at me, remotely possessed by intense life. So this is one of the moments where Daisy really finds out that she loves Gatsby. And throughout the book, Gatsby takes the falls for her actions, later in the book when Daisy runs over Myrtle. That was her fault. But Gatsby took it for her. And Gatsby was always in love with her, and she just didn't see it. But that was one of the times that she did. And so this ties to real life was because in December 2013, Tori Spelling and Dean McDermott had a little fallout in their marriage. And Dean cheated on Tori while he was in Toronto in that time. And now they have 4 kids. Their marriage is better. If you've watched Truth by Tori on Oxygen, you'd know that. But, that's what I'm here for, to let you know information.
I ain't got time for you, baby. Either you're mine or you're not. Make up your mind, sweet baby. Right here, right now is all we got. A little party never killed nobody. So we gon' dance.
But Gossip Blog isn't always about one cheating event, but it's better when there's 2. And this one is Tom and Myrtle cheat on each other's spouses. And so I found this quote on page 37. Sometime towards midnight, Tom Butchman and Mrs. Wilson stood face to face, discussing in impassioned voices whether Miss Wilson had any right to mention Daisy's name. So that was the quote. And that quote was meaningful because it showed the reader who was the boss. Tom eventually punches Myrtle in the face, and they just love each other anyways. And so this ties to real life because Kris Jenner admitted in her tell-all autobiography, Kris Jenner and All Things Kardashian, to cheating on her first husband, Robert Kardashian, with an unnamed man. She had 3 kids at the time, and she cheated on her family and her husband, and then later tells the world that she cheated on someone, which I thought was crazy, but I give her credit for telling the truth at one point in her life.
Preach. Human beings in a mob. What's a mob to a king? What's a king to a god? What's a god to a non-believer?
Freak accidents happen all the time with not only regular people, but celebrities. And on page 144, Myrtle is killed. And this isn't technically, it is a freak accident, but at the same time, it's not. Myrtle jumps in front of the street, so it's considered, to me, suicide, but it's a freak accident because Daisy's the one that ran her over. So on page 144, she says, a moment later, she rushed out into the dusk, waving her hands and shouting before he could move from his door. The business was over. The death car, as the newspapers called it, didn't stop. It came out of the gathering darkness, wavered tragically for a moment, and disappeared around the next bend. Myrtle was killed. And I related this to Princess Diana's death, because on August 31st, 1997, she was killed in a traffic collision. Although the media, like me, would blame paparazzi for following the car, the driver was in a high-speed chase while driving drunk. And then I would also consider this to be it could relate to Robin Williams, because he hung himself or committed suicide when he was recently diagnosed. He was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he suffered from depression. And this just happened in the summer of 2014, which was shortly ago. So, things happen. Rest in peace, everyone.
I've seen the world, done it all, had my cake now. I am.
So when Gatsby dies in the book, in chapter 9, they consider the funeral to be very intimate. Only his brother and a few other people were there. And so a quote from page 171, "After 2 years, I remembered the rest of that day and that night and the whole next day, only as an endless drill of police and photographers and newspaper men in and out of Gatsby's front door." So I tied this with the death of Joan Rivers. And Joan Rivers passed away September 4th, 2014, at age 81 during a medical procedure resulting in the lack of oxygen to the brain. And although her funeral was big, it seemed intimate to me. It was everyone that knew her and loved her. And it was like Juliana Rancic and Kelly Osbourne and Melissa and Cooper. And so I thought it was kind of tied in with being an intimate funeral because there were people that genuinely loved her.
Love is cursed by monogamy. That's something that the pastor don't preach. That's something that a teacher can't teach. When we die, the money we can't keep, but we probably spend it all because the pain ain't cheap. Preach. Human beings in a mind.
Last but not least, the highlight of the entire book, the climax, was that Gatsby was killed by Tom, and then Tom kills himself. And so I found a quote on 170, and so here it goes. "There was a faint, barely precipitate movement of water as the fresh flow from one end urged its way towards the drain to another. A small gust of wind that scarcely corrugated the surface was enough to disturb its accidental course with the accidental burden. The touch of the clusters of leaves revolved it slowly, tracing like the leg of a compass, a thin red circle in the water. It was after we started with Gatsby towards the house that the gardener saw Wilson's body a little ways off in the glass, and the Holocaust was complete." I tied this with Selena's death. Selena died on March 31st, 1995, by Yolanda Saladiris, which she was the general clothing manager at Selena, etc., and she was also the manager of her fan club, of Selena's fan club, and she was fired for embezzlement, and so to seek revenge, she shot Selena, killing her, and now she is in jail, sentenced to life in prison. So as she hasn't, killed herself, she doesn't have a life now. She can't go do something. So technically, she did kill herself, because now she can't have any fun because she's in a jail cell. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my analyzation of The Great Gatsby versus the Real World. And The Great Gatsby was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If you want to go read the book, it's an amazing read. So I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thanks. Have a good day, guys.
Secrets are